another very beautiful morning from our studio, IKD 106.1 FM. And of course, I welcome you to the issues where we talk about matters. Every Thursday, our conversation is always in line with our health because they say health is wealth. And that is why we do this every Thursdays on the issues where we talk about matters that concerns you and I as regards our health. So also we will do today on the issues where we would have our focus on caring for the most vulnerable amongst us. Now, when we talk about the most vulnerable amongst us, these are persons that a lot of us tend to neglect, or sometimes we can say that these are persons that we do not tend to care about, which should not be so. Talking about the vulnerable persons, the population includes individuals or groups for persons who may be at higher risk for adverse health outcomes due to, you can say, various factors such as a socio-economic status. You can also talk about the age, which is another important factor. Sometimes disability, mental health, or chronic illness, and some other factors. All of these and more today we will talk about on the issues while we look at caring for the most vulnerable amongst us. My guest today in the studio is no other person all the way from General Hospital Ikorodu in person of Head of Social Welfare Department from General Hospital Ikorodu, Mrs. Popola FD. We will together have this conversation this morning. You can be part of this conversation by joining us live on Facebook at IKD 1061 FM. That is our social media handle for Facebook, IKD 1061 FM. You can also drop your comments and questions on our Facebook page as regards our conversation today. Talk about caring for the most vulnerable amongst us. My name is Opeyemi Adebambo. A very short breather would suffice, and then when we return, we get talking alongside with my guest, Mrs. Popola. Good morning, Lagos. You're welcome back to the issues on IKD 106.1 FM. You can also join this broadcast live from anywhere you are all over the world via our website, www.ikd1061fm.ng. During the course of the conversation, if you have questions to ask my guest today, Mrs. Popola, please feel free to call the studio lines 0904-081-1061 or 0904-082-1061. WhatsApp messages and text messages are very much welcome as well on 0904-082-1061. Talking about caring for the most vulnerable amongst us today. To put us through this conversation will be Mrs. Popola from General Hospital Ikorodu here. Good morning to you, Mrs. Popola.
Good morning, sir. And
Thank
good
you.
morning to my listeners.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for the privilege.
So we're talking about caring for the most vulnerable. Like I said, this is some set of persons. These are some set of persons that not everybody tends to look towards their direction for one reason or the other. You being the head of social welfare department, you know these people well. You know them better. So to start off the conversation, tell us, who are these vulnerable people?
Thank you very much for the privilege once again. By starting my conversation, I want to define, there are some concepts that need to be defined. So that is, what is care and who are vulnerables?
Okay.
So care can be, in a layman's language, can be defined as giving help to the less privileged, giving hope to the hopeless people in the society. Then why vulnerables are those people that are partially impaired, the elderly, the abandoned babies, the destitute on the streets of Lagos and the environs.
Yes.
And those people that are unable to pay their hospital
Bills.
then those people that are suffering from chronic illness. So those are the terminology that are in the concept of the topic.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Now, as you have well defined these vulnerable people, one of the major challenges that they face is neglect. You know, so to say, people tend not to look towards their direction, which sometimes might not be very palatable. And that is why we're having this conversation today. So the next thing I want us to talk about, this vulnerable people, you know them well. What are some of the challenges I would like for you to share with us in details? Some of the challenges that you know that they pass through on a daily basis, on a day-to-day activities. Some of the challenges that they pass through as vulnerable persons.
Thank you. Before going to your question, I have some little informations to pass across
Yes, please go ahead.
so that people can be known.
Mm.
So I'm a social worker, and we have seasoned and professional social workers in the General Hospital and Lagos State as a whole.
Okay.
So we are professionals and we know our onions.
Mm.
So before we get a case,
Okay.
we have some 7 attributes that you have to profile, you have to possess
Mm.
before you can identify that this person is vulnerable or not.
Okay.
Because we in the recent time we found out that people are, so to say,
Mm.
like in quotes, they tend to lie.
Mm.
So eventually,
So there's an abuse of
yes,
that word, vulnerable people.
yes. So as time goes on, during the course of our intervention and investigation, we find out that they are lying because we are not magician. So we have some process that we need to go through. It's the stages. So one of it is we don't have to be judgmental. We don't have to be biased.
Mm.
Then we have to allow them to express themselves when they come to us. Then we make use of one of the instruments of social worker. We call it social means test.
Okay, meaning
that when we see a case like that, we investigate. We go extra mile by going to their families, by going to their churches, by going to their working place to know how many dependents they have. Because some people, in the case of medical social worker, we have social workers, like I said, in all Lagos states,
Okay.
but different people with their different schedule of duties. We have school social workers, we have community social workers, we have medical social workers, we have family social workers as well. But in my own lane now, I'm in hospital, so they refer to us as medical social workers. So when we have cases like that, we get their biodatas, we get their details, we forge ahead by doing home tracing to know if actually this person will be our client in future. So at the time during the course of our intervention and investigation, we make sure we go to their people, their friends, their families to know how much they are earning, if they have work, how many dependents they have, then to know the little money they have with, so that we'll be able to know that this person actually cannot afford the hospital bill. So those are the things that we do in the hospital setting.
Okay, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Now, going back to the original conversation,
Okay.
you know, at the start of Glee, when I talked about caring for the most vulnerable amongst us, you did well to say that caring is a thing on its own, and also identifying who vulnerable people are. Now, the question is, when we say caring, you see some children, they will tell you that, what else do you want me to do for my grandmother? What else do you want me to do for my aged father? I give him food. I make sure there's food in the house. Some people don't even understand the context of caring for this vulnerable amongst us, especially the elderly. So you would help us understand, when we talk about the word care, how should we care for the vulnerable amongst us? What exactly is that word care? Is it just ensuring that there is food in the house for them to eat, or ensuring that, oh, okay, I've sent money to daddy's account, and will you tell me I'm not caring for him that way? What is that word care when it has to do with vulnerable people?
Okay, thank you once again. Care, it goes beyond giving food for your elderly people. It's encompassing.
Okay.
It has to do with their emotional, their psychological, and their spiritual aspects and social aspect as well. So those 4 things we need to look into it detail, so that it won't be I've given him food.
Exactly.
Because you might be eating, but the food, if it's thinking, if it's not mentally balanced, of course the food will not show on his or her body. So we have to make sure you are always there for your elderly, either the abandoned babies or for the elderly. So make sure that you provide the needs they need, and you make sure you talk to them, that you give hope to them. Like I said at the introduction, that you have to give hope to the hopeless. Like I said, we are not magician, but we make sure we will detail them, and we make sure they function very well to the society at large, so that they can be independent. They will not rely on people or their family.
So when you say that this care now, you said there are 4 major things that should be considered. Let's take them one after the other, so that people can have a proper understanding and know that, okay, when I talk about caring for the elderly or the vulnerable amongst us, these are the 4 things I should take to heart. So can we just look at them one after the other, the 4 major things that has to do with caring for vulnerable people?
The first one is social aspects.
Okay.
When you talk about social, it has to do with relationship with people. You have to have good interpersonal relationship with people that you are talking to. You make sure they are socially stable, that their society, their behavior is conforming to the normal norms of the guiding society they find themselves. So why we talk about the emotional,
Okay.
some people cannot stand the risk, they can't stand the stress, they will be shedding tears, they'll be crying. Of course, in our profession we are trained that we should allow our client to cry.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
So by crying now, they are boiling out the anger. They are bringing out their stress. So by the time at the end of their crying section, of course, we allow them to cry. Then after that, they will now come out and tell us why they are crying. Then we now look into area. It's two-way thing.
Okay.
They have to make sure they are ready to go out of that problem. Like the person that is trying to commit suicide. Of course, when they come to hospital, we thank God that sometimes they will not die, and sometimes they will go. Of course, the person that have died, there is nothing we can do. But the people that are unable, made the first attempt it wasn't successful. So they refer their case to us through a consult from a doctor.
Okay.
So having interaction with the person,
yes,
we ask him why and the necessary factors that could be responsible for it. Maybe it could be have not gotten admission, or because of the current situation of the country. We look detail and we go beyond by finding his or her friends, talking to the mommy and daddies and friends and the churches, church or Muslim, if it's a religious base rather.
Okay.
Then the economic factor. I really want to appreciate the Lagos State
economic
government.
factor.
Yes.
Okay.
Is encompassing. Some people will come to the hospital as well after being treated by the medical doctor. To leave the hospital, they find it difficult to go because of the financial aspect of it. So that's when we come in. Like I said, we can't just bump into somebody's privacy. They have to give us a consult as an official letter inviting us that this person is probably going to be our client. So when we see the person, we collect the biodata, we ask for one or two informations, and we make sure that we go extra mile in making sure that the person is mentally and socially stable so that he can leave the hospital as soon as possible. So when we see such cases, we make sure I've digressed. Sorry.
Okay.
So we make sure we see the person and discuss one-on-one why he or she was trying to commit a suicide. Maybe the person is finding it hard to get admission or employment. We ask the course he he's trying to learn, and the subject, the grade he had in WAEC. If it's something that cannot get him admission, of course we inform the decision. We make sure we sit together and discuss and dialogue that, okay, if admission is not going, you ought to have a plan B. And what could be your plan B? Maybe to learn a vocation. Like I said, I was trying to say I wanted to appreciate the Lagos State government for what he has put in place for the Lagos State people. And it's not only for Lagosians too. We have so many people that come from other states
to benefit from this.
Yes. So there is one school at Fashola School at Ikorodu, here in Ikorodu. I've forgotten the name of the street, and we have so many vocations that they can learn. So we tell them, what area are you good in? Maybe you want to learn a tailoring, you want to learn barbing, and it's free. It's free. So we only need to get the consent of their parents that, okay, since admission is not coming in, okay, let's have plan B. Tentatively, when the person will write the WAEC again or the JAM, then he will get admission, and we do a follow-up on that person. It doesn't end in the hospital. We make sure we put a call through, then we go in to visit them, that hope you are not trying to commit the suicide again, hope you have jettisoned the idea. Then we make sure that they are functioning very well among their peers and in the family.
Okay, I think then we are left with just one before we go ahead. You talked about the social aspect. You also talked about the emotional side of the conversation, and also talking about what you call economic factor. I think there is one more to go to make it
Psychological.
four. Psychological.
Psychological.
Okay, the psychological side of it. Let's look at the importance of healthcare to the vulnerable people. Now, when I say healthcare, a lot of persons believes that when you talk about caring for vulnerable people around us, either the elderly or the younger ones that are not are yet independent, they believe that it has to do with the finance. Let me just ensure that there is money available for mommy. Let me ensure there is money available for this child. Let me ensure that there is food and all of these things. Many a times, people don't look towards the direction of health care that they need to be taken to the hospital. Sometimes they need to be treated for this and that. So tell us, how important is health care? How important is hospital to the vulnerable people?
Thank you. Hospital, in life, we cannot do away with hospital.
Mm,
It's not possible, especially when we are growing up. So coming to the hospital, we make sure they tell their people that they have to go to hospital. But some people will come to hospital without a dime in their hand. Like I said, I still want to appreciate the Lagos State government and the medical director of General Hospital Ikorodu,
mm,
because I couldn't count the number of times that he bring out money from his purse. That okay, they are our neighbors, they are our friends. We never can tell where we are going to meet them again. So go and get their medications for them for
mm,
free. And in the same vein, I really want to appreciate some NGOs that are coming to the department to assist the people. Then some churches, the Muslim brothers and sisters, they always come to assist them in making sure they get their health, because health is very important. Like you said, health is wealth.
mm.
If they are not healthy, of course they won't be able to function optimally in their working place, in their society and what have you. So by coming to hospital, there is another thing that they put in place, which is called Ilera Eco.
Okay.
Ilera Eco is very affordable and very cheap for people
Mm,
that find it difficult to access care. So when they come to, I think for individual is 8,500 naira in a year, if
mm.
I'm not mistaken. I think 8,200.
8,200.
Yes, in a year. Why for family is 40,000 naira.
Mm,
So they will be paying it instrumentally. So when we see cases like that, we make sure we tell them, we canvas, we do advocacy to them
mm,
that they should not stay at home whenever they see that they are feeling their body is they are feeling funny,
mm,
because I don't have money, I want to go to the traditionalist, or I want to go to the area Lagbo and all that.
mm,
We advocate that they come to hospital so that they can get maximum care.
mm,
So by coming to the hospital, after assessing all their care, we make sure we get people for them to pay for their needs,
mm.
and as in the hospital be, and to do some lab investigations. And by so doing, they have a better, brighter knowledge that okay, we have hope
Mm.
through the help of the social workers in the hospital premises.
One very common thing, Mrs. Popola, amongst vulnerable people is what they call depression. This is one thing that you would commonly find amongst the vulnerable persons around us, because they have too many things on their head that you're thinking of or thinking about. Now, in some cases, it could be intimidation. They are just intimidated by the people around them, or they are kind of age category people, and then they start drowning gradually. Tell us, how best can people around vulnerable persons help them overcome depression, help them overcome intimidation? But before you even attempt that, please tell us, when you talk about vulnerable people, is there a particular age bracket to it? There are some kind of illnesses, sicknesses, or diseases that they will tell you that it affects the older generation more. It affects the younger ones. Are there any age category to people that are known as vulnerable people?
Thank you. Vulnerable doesn't have a age limit.
Okay.
In the olden days, we hear less of depression or suicidal attempts,
Mm-hmm.
but it's becoming rampant in recent days because of the maybe peer group, the economic situation and what have you.
Mm.
But like I said, depression is real, and what we normally advocate for is, to our clients, is if they see something, they should say something.
Mm.
They should not die silently. They should speak out.
Mm.
If they are not saying it out, of course we are not magicians and we are not God. We won't be able to know what they are passing through. So by speaking up for health, for help rather, that
Mm.
is where we come in. Then we make sure that they do away. Maybe if it's a peer group, they move away from that circle,
Okay.
change their environment and change their their circle of friends. And if it's something like ashwebi, some people will put ashwebi or family matters on their head that will give them silently, they will give them depression, that
Mm.
I want to meet up to standard. So all these things we tell them that it's not a do or die affairs. You have to make sure you do what you are capable of doing.
Mm.
Don't follow peer group, don't follow gang. Do what you know you can do that will not give you depression or any suicidal attempts.
Mm.
Then we advocate for anti-bullying in the secondary school, because
Okay.
so many at times we have children that will come up because I did not give him my provision. He's telling me that I'm going to see. He's telling my some friends that they should not play with me.
Mm.
So that's why we always tell our kids too that they should be closer to their parents. Their parents too should have a listening ear to their children too, so that when they talk, they can advent it at the immediate extent before it goes out of hand.
Mm. Oh,
Then we have school counselors who, like I said, that
yes.
normally advocate for all these anti-bullying aspects in the school system.
We are live on Facebook, currently streaming on IKD 1061 FM. You can drop your comments there as regards our conversation today. Caring for the most vulnerable amongst us. These are people that need our attention, they need our time, they need our money, they need our love. It is not something that you just do a side and then you leave another. They need every care as much as possible. And this is also in line with the health sector as well. And that is why we're having this conversation with the head of Social Welfare Department, General Hospital Ikorodu, in person of Mrs. Popola, FD. Now, I want us to take this conversation to another level, still talking about caring for the most vulnerable. Now, the most vulnerable, either young or old, there are responsibilities to some particular set of people. Sometimes the parents, sometimes the children. In some cases, you see that the children are the ones that are supposed to take care of their parents when they get older. And in some cases, these vulnerable persons are younger ones that the parents should take care of them. Let's talk about the people that are around these people we call vulnerable. What are the things they should do? You know, it is a thing for somebody to be a vulnerable person and not being able to help his or herself. But the people around them are the ones that are supposed to help them, care for them, be there for them. So let's talk about in details, one after the other, how people around these vulnerable people can care for them, show them support and love. What are the things they need to do? Sometimes we don't need to blame these people because they don't even know what to do. They just feel like, okay, since mommy is old, I should just always ensure that there is money. They might not be sure of the exact things to do. So let's talk about the things they should do as people around vulnerable persons.
Thank you. If you are around or if you notice anybody that is vulnerable around your society,
Mm.
the first thing is to seek for help.
Okay.
We have our ministry is Ministry of Youth and Social Development in Alausa,
Okay.
Block 18. So, and we have we have social workers in all the local governments. We have in Ojogbe here,
Okay.
because we have family social workers who that deals with family broken homes, delinquent children. If you now notice that anybody is suffering, is for you to look for a social worker that will be able to assist that person.
Mm.
So if let's say if the person is suffering from HIV,
Mm.
HIV is not a killing disease, not a killer disease.
Mm.
You always tell them that there is hope.
Mm.
There are so many cases that I am attended to in General Hospital Ikorodu that we always tell them that HIV is not a some people say that they have collected a death warrant. No, they have to go away with their idea. If you are HIV positive, of course you can see the normal thing every other person are doing. Have your children and they will not be positive.
Mm.
So the right thing is just for that person to seek for help. So by seeking for help, a professional social worker, of course, will be able to intervene and sort that person's amicably without affecting the other society or affecting the other community. So we don't have to just keep our mind that it's none of our business. We should be our brothers keepers. Like in the olden days, our forefathers, they always have a communal living.
True.
If A's daughter is going astray, of course they will call the attention of the mother that the clothes or the behavior of your so person is looking somehow, and they will collectively scold and nurture that child. But in the recent days, we are doing me and my family, which is not helping the society, because at large is affecting the society. Because if he is not nipped on the bud, of course it's going to affect us in the society, either on the street. So that's why we have to make sure we don't keep quiet. If you see destitute on the street, there are people that are designated for that aspect. We call them rescue officers. They pick them on the street and take them to rehabilitation center in Majidu. And you have abandoned babies. Some people will have babies and they will just abandon the baby for no reason. Maybe they can't care for the baby. So when we see such babies, the Samaritan will bring them to our hospital. The hospital management will take care of the needs of the baby from day one to when the baby leaves the hospital. Then we will not get as a social worker, we not get the police extract, because we have to inform the police people where the baby was being found, so that they will be in the know too. So they give us what is called police extract. Then after the baby has been discharged with a medical discharge certificate, we write our comprehensive reports to HSC, through HSC to Alausa, so that the baby can be placed in government approved home for further care. So if it's a case of a destitute, like I said, the person has to be brought to hospital, cared for the person by the hospital management and Good Samaritan, meaning Nigerians. Then they will care for after the person has been discharged, we take the person back to, we write a letter as well too, and we write to Alausa through HSC. Then they take the person to rehabilitation center. And if it's care for the elderly too, we have one at Yaba, beside Queen's College. So there is a process. So we make sure that nobody is being loitering on the streets of Lagos State. So we refer to the social worker that is attached to that organization, that so case has been referred to us. Then they will not take the case up from the medical social workers.
Thank you so very much. We will begin to take in calls on the issues today. If you have questions as regards our conversation today, talking about caring for most vulnerable persons amongst us, on 0904081161 or 0904082161. Hello to you. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Your name and where you're calling us from, please.
My name is Akwanishile from Aga.
Mr. Panishile, we are talking about caring for the most vulnerable today. Do you have questions for Mrs. Popola?
Thank you, sir. I have a question.
Please go ahead.
Firstly, I want to know the difference between vulnerable and disabled people.
The difference between vulnerable and disabled.
Disabled.
Okay.
Then, why I'm asking this question, what especially women?
Mm.
You know, some of our women, when all these disabled women,
Mm.
got married happily, suddenly their husband may left them because of their condition.
Mm.
Or one to the other. So this type of women, you may not be able to take the responsibility of the two children or the three children.
Mm.
He doesn't have particular job that he's doing. So
Mm.
the woman will continue suffering. Is this for disabled women that have this type of issue? Is it opportunity to benefit for this type of program? That's my question.
That is for disabled persons.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Panishile. Thank you for your question. I don't know if you get his question, Mrs. Okay, please, let's attend to his question.
When it comes to disables, there is we always tell them that they should register under LASODA. There is a scheme that Lagos State has put in place for them. So by so doing, when they come to hospital, they won't pay a dime if they have that policy number.
Wow.
Yes, they won't pay a dime. Either they are partially impaired or physically challenged or any kind of body impairment that they may be suffering from. So once they are registered, and I think they have a group too. So I will advise the person to go to ask around to look for their group so that you can join a group member. So they always assist one another, because I see so many people that they will bring them, they don't know them, of course, but the value, for the virtue of the fact that the person is under their association, they will bring the person to the hospital to access care.
All right, I hope that has done justice to your question. That is to our caller 0904081161 or 0904082161. Mrs. Popola, the next 20 minutes before you leave the studio today, I want us to take into consideration two major vulnerable persons. That is the category of the disabled and also the category of the elderly. We will be talking about these two categories. Starting up with the elderly. Many a times we see that children or even grandchildren, one way they feel is the best way to care for the elderly is, aside we have provided foodstuffs, they will say they don't want anything to happen to grandma or mommy. So we can establish her. She should go to farm so that she gets busy. Especially from the Yoruba side, it is believed that if an elderly person stays idle at home doing nothing, it could affect the health. So many a times children tend to look for alternatives to help the elderly, with maybe opening a shop for them, allowing them to stretch their legs, go come and all of that, or go to farm without considering the health angle of it. You would hardly see of cases where children would say, okay, you need to be going for medical checkup and all of this. What do you have to say as regards children, grandchildren who feel that the elder ones only has to go to farm, only has to sit at home or go for their daily activities without considering the healthcare angle?
Thank you. Like I said, it go beyond social worker doing it. It's a community solution approach to it. If you have an elderly at home, it go beyond living food. You have to make sure you have to study the person if he has a capability of going to farm. No, because there is an adage in Yoruba that says the devil's an idle hand is the devil's workshop. So if you know that working will be of benefit to that elderly person, of course you should go. But never forget that they have to be assessing care. They have to be coming to hospital for medical checkup. They will bring them at once in a month, or as their physician prescribed to them. Then you make sure that you are always there for them. You call them times with that number, stay with them, ask, you talk, you engage them in the conversation. Maybe they have a bottle of anger, they will be able to let it out. So by conversing with them. So then if it's some people now, they will tell them just open a small shop in the front of
the house, exactly,
which is good too. Because if they are not doing anything, they will attempt to be thinking, and by thinking, depression will fall in, BP will fall in too. So that's why we always say then that you have to know what your body can adapt to, can take. That is when you know, okay, is a little thing, but not rigorous activity because of their age brackets. You have to consider too. You have to consider that one as well.
All right, okay, thank you. Still on the elderly now, caring for the elderly, before we go down to the disabled now on this conversation. This elderly, from what age? Now, what do I mean? We have seen or heard of cases of a man in his 40s, early 50s, is already a grandfather. Are those the elderly? Or the ones that until they get to 80, 90, some will tell you that care for the elderly starts from when the man starts using stick and he can't walk by himself again, or when he lost the sight and then he cannot see properly. Some believe that care for the elderly, as a matter of fact, only starts when there is something wrong with the health. Maybe he starts falling sick. It is time for us to start caring for daddy. When can we start to care for the elderly?
It doesn't have a time.
Okay.
Yeah, it starts as early as you notice it. As early as you notice it. Because intervention is very key when it comes to care for the elderly. You don't have to wait for when they are started falling sick, or when they are using walking stick to walk. That's when you will now know that I want to care for my grandma or grandpa. No. So immediately you notice that maybe, let's say 50 or 60, that you know that grandma, what she used to do, she's not
She no
doing.
longer does that.
Yes, very well. Or maybe he's the type that normally calls every of her child or grandchild every day, and he's not calling again. Of course, you know that something is a red flag that needs to be attended to as early as possible. Then after having done that, you make sure you bring them to the hospital. And people will tell you, I'm okay. Because they are not falling sick, they are not losing any of their sight or parts of their body. They will tell you, I'm not going to the hospital, I'm using all this folic acid and all that I'm okay with that. No, it go beyond that, because they have to check their blood level. Like I said, we normally advocate for blood donation.
Okay.
I use myself as an example as well. I'm a regular blood donor. Wow. Because there are so many advantages that are attached to it, being a blood donor person. So like I was saying now, the grandma will tell you, because I'm not sick, because I'm not falling sick, I'm okay. But if going to the hospital, doing a regular medical checkup, of course, be able to detect if the blood in your blood circle is normal or is accurate for the grandma, or if the person is not suffering from BP,
okay,
or any silent killer disease that they might not know.
Your name and where you calling us from? Okay, yes, Mr. Panishile, please go ahead. Okay.
Let's assume I'm a community leader, and somebody came to me to report that he has a little challenge of maybe that woman doesn't have husband again.
Okay.
And he has a boy who is having all this drug abuse, smoking, doing sort of things.
Okay, he uses substances. Okay. Okay, if we get your question correctly, in the case of a woman who is a widow and has a child, this child abuses drugs, what should the woman do? Thank you, Mr. Panishile. Your question will be attended to. Thank you. Okay, so let's attend to Mr. Panishile.
Okay, thank you, sir, once again. The woman needs to seek for help, like I said. We have to look for the family, because the social worker cannot do it alone. The family of the husband and the family of the woman, and we have to go into details, the kind of peer group that the child is
mingles with.
Yes. Then having done that, of course, the child needs to be rehabilitated. We have substance abuse home. We call them good boys and good girls. We have them at the Sherry. So it depends on the area where the woman is living, because social worker in Ikorodu cannot do the work of social worker in Shomolu or in Agege. So there are social worker that is attached to every local government in the state. So I will advise the woman seek the assistance of social worker that is nearest to her house. Then they will take her details, and they will fall into action and make sure the child is being rehabilitated.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Popola. Mr. Akpanishile, if you just heard that, the best advice is to tell that woman who happens to be a widow to ensure that she seeks the help of social workers. That would help. Hello to you. Good morning. Thank you for calling. Your name and where you're calling us from. Yes, please go ahead.
Sorry?
Please say that question again. Okay, all right. That will be attended to. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you. Okay, so she wants to know where the school is in Ikorodu.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Marada. I don't know the precise address, but I know the address is at Aga in Ikorodu. And there is one at Otaono too, along grammar school.
Okay, so for our caller, all you need to do is whenever you get towards Aga access, you can ask from anyone around Aga. I am also aware of another one along grammar school access too. These are the two major places in Ikorodu here. You can find out from that particular environment. To close the curtain on the elderly, before we quickly move to the disabled, you have already started the conversation, and I would like to know, especially for listeners, what should children do in the case of their grandmothers, in the case of their elderly parents, saying that I was not trained with all these medications, I don't need the drugs, I don't need the injections. In fact, I don't want to go to hospital. It's not as if some children are not aware. They are aware of the importance of healthcare. But then the parents are not even willing. They will still keep telling you they are fine, and health-wise, they are dying gradually. What should children in this stage do to help their parents?
Thank you. What they need to do is very simple. Like I said, social worker has to come in. So by social worker coming in, of course, we are going to make sure they do a kind of a what is called guidance and counseling for
Okay.
that elderly.
Okay.
It's a series. You have to be checking on that elderly, going to the person's home to make sure you canvas and you talk. Don't let me use cajole. You talk. You make sure you convincing the person to know the advantages in making coming to the hospital. Then, like I said, we have one elderly home in Yaba that is provided by the Lagos State government. When elderly sees themselves, they tend to free themselves and to come out from their body,
Shell.
from their shell. So I don't advise for children that to go and put their elderly
Mothers, yes.
in elderly's home. But when the case is going out of hand, when nobody is there for them, when nobody is at home, only the grandma day to night, Monday to Friday, of course I will suggest that the elderly is supposed to be put under his peer group so that it can function well. There they have medical doctors, they have a lab and all that attend to them. So by that, of course, the person will not be able to reject medical treatment.
So automatically they tend to care for the person by themselves. So the children have nothing to worry about when it has to do with the elderly. Now let's move down to the disabled. The very big norm is the fact that a lot of disabled persons stay in their shell a lot for the fact that they know that they are disabled, and then they feel intimidated, they feel depressed. The people around them could also be a problem because they are the ones that will still say some words that might not be very helping. Now, the people around the disabled, what would your advice, what would your words as an expert that you are be to them when you have disabled people around you? How should you treat them? How should you care for them?
Thank you. It's a very good and wonderful question. When you have people like that around you, the only thing that you need to do is just to show care, show some love. You have to care for them because they are a victim today. Anybody can fall into that category tomorrow. So you never can tell, anything can happen. The table can turn. So that's why it's always good to show love. They tend to be, let me use that word, to be hungry, to be
They're always
violent.
aggressive.
Yes, very aggressive because because I do not have leg. That's why you are. They feel intimidated that you are chancing me or you are maltreating me because I'm physically impaired. So you have to make sure that no, Egbon, Aburo is not like that. So, or this is what you did the other time. You correct them with love and you show love because anything can happen. Be your brother's keeper. There are times now part of what we do in the hospital too is when we have road traffic accident victim. No, anybody will travel, we say I'm going to office. Before you know it, they will have accident. By the time they bring them to hospital, they don't have anybody in the hospital to care for them than the social workers. Because the first intervention is just to make sure we search their pockets, their bags, maybe their luggage is right, maybe they have any vital information that we can be helpful to us by getting their family contact, their addresses, and where they are going to, where they are coming from. So without getting their family involvement, the management intervene medically. The feeding, the accommodation is free pending when we get their relatives. So if you don't have the relative eventually, of course the medical director writes off the bills. And at times we have Well Meaningful Nigeria that come in to say, okay, I want to help one or two people that are unable to pay their hospital bills. That's why we always advocate that people should do less of social gathering, as in party. Instead of doing gallivanting around the society, there are people in the hospital that are suffering, that need money.
Help.
Yes. So people are finding it difficult to do medication worth of 2,000 naira.
Wow.
Yes, it's that bad because of the society economy that we find ourselves. So that's why we always advocate that people, if you have the means, come to the society, come to the hospital to come and assist. And how do we do this? We don't collect any dime from anybody.
I was going to ask that it's
Yeah.
a general hospital. How
Yeah.
does it work?
No, they have the designated accounts
Okay.
that they will pay into, and they will collect their receipts. And we take them to the person that needs the assistance, so that they will know that so person have come to pay for you, so that they can appreciate or thank the person. But some people will come, individuals will come, I want to remain anonymous. But we'll make sure that we inform the management, so that the management who can know, they will write a letter of appreciation to them, so that they will know that their money has been used judiciously.
Before we let you go today on the issues here today, where we talk about caring for the most vulnerable amongst us, now we want to know the impact of General Hospital Ikorodu. I like the fact that you've said that the government are doing well enough in Lagos State. I like the fact that and the MD of General Hospital Ikorodu. Now tell us, how is the settings like with General Hospital? We know that there are different departments. If you want to do something with your eyes, there is a particular place you go to. If it has to do with your heart and all of that, is there a place at General Hospital Ikorodu that cares for the most vulnerable, or it is just the normal regular business of the day?
No, I was about saying it. Thank you. I was about saying it that our office is located at Block A, beside the dental department. So that is where we are. Then if anybody needs our attention, of course, like I said, they have to call our attention by a consult.
Okay.
Then at times always we do ward round. So by identifying the cases by ourselves. So then we make use of our visiting time too. Visiting time, what do I mean? Anybody, we've been visiting Block A, let's say May Ward, and we find out that each time we visit the Block A, people are not around that client, that particular patient.
Okay.
We go again the next day, we found out that you don't have any visitor. That's a red flag.
Always alone.
Yes, always a no. Alone, rather. So we call the attention of the chief matron in charge that I noticed that each time we come to the ward, we've not been seeing people around this. And when we deserted they've deserted him, they've not been coming for him because of the financial implication that he should go and die. Some people will tell you that the wala is too much, that he should go and the person should go so that they can have rest. We always make sure we go to their house and tell them the importance of taking care of their person, because they don't know when and how disabled might turn. So that's why we always say that they should just care for anybody, any of their relations. Either you know them or you don't know. So far, they have life. So that we make sure that we avert death. We do our best to make sure that we reduce the number of mortality in Lagos State and in General Hospital Ikorodu at large.
Thank you so very much. We will take in just one more call before we leave today. 0904-081-1061 or 0904-082-1061. Caring for the most vulnerable amongst us. These persons are human just like we are. They have life just like we also have this life. And it's important for us to care for them as much as we care for ourselves. Just like Mrs. Popola has rightly said, care for your neighbor, love your neighbor as you love yourself. Our religion also supports that. Now, lastly, the next 5 minutes before you leave, Mrs. Popola, what are some of the illnesses, sicknesses, diseases? This is the kind of sickness that affects mothers, grandmothers. This is the kind of sickness that affects fathers. What should children be looking out for? What are some of the, with your experience, some of the illnesses that you know that, okay, this is what always happens to the elderly ones anytime they are getting to this age and this. But before you attempt that question, let's take this last call for today. Hello to you.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Sorry for disturbing.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Would I know, maybe I want to know, for this Ilera Eko department,
Okay.
do they have any duration of sickness that somebody can bring there, or is it all kind of sickness that when you register that they will treat you?
Okay.
I want to know, let people know.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. So he's talking about the Ilera Eko, where you have the opportunity for healthcare in Lagos. He wants to know, do they attend to all forms of sicknesses and health issues, or there are some specific ones like come only when you have malaria and typhoid? So he wants to know what are the sicknesses that they attend to with Ilera Eko.
Okay, thank you, sir. I won't dwell much on that aspect because I'm not in that department. But what I know is they attend to all kind of sicknesses. But it now depends on them to know which one is covered and which one is not covered. What do I mean by cover? That they can attend to without paying a dime.
Okay, okay.
Then if you are going to pay, reduce it, they will let you know when you come to meet them. Their office rather too is in General Hospital Ikorodu. So when you come, they will direct you to their department and they will let you to know the itinerary of their schedule.
Thank you so very much. So back to our question, which is going to be the last for today. A student who is going to gain admission into university faculty of arts will know that he should get ready for literature, English, and some arts-related courses. So for elderly and those that cares for them, what are the sicknesses they should always prepare for? That okay, grammar, anytime this might be coming your way.
So the little of my experience, I would say rheumatism is very common in elderly, and BP, high blood pressures too. They are very common diseases among the elderly. Then well, it's a social problem anyway. So loneliness, loneliness too, because when they tend to be lonely, of course, so many silent diseases might crop in.
Yes. Okay, so let's just have your parting words, your advice to the vulnerable ones. We'll do a 2-in-1 this time around. Your advice to the vulnerable ones, and then your advice to those that are supposed to care for the vulnerable ones.
Okay, firstly, for the vulnerable ones, my advice is just simple, that they should not relent and they should not give up. They should not lose hope. God is always there for them to help them and his people and their family too as well. So the other part is
for those that care for them.
For those that they should not relent. There is always reward if you assist people. Only okay, so when you are assisting, you keep on getting more. And when you are giving them social support, of course, your own too will have lesser problem in the society. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so very much. This is how far we can have it today on the issue. Special thanks to our guest today, Mrs. Popola, FD, Head of Social Welfare Department, General Hospital Ikorodu. Of course, she sure knows her onions well. And of course, a special thanks to General Hospital Ikorodu. To the MD, we say thank you to Mr. Taiwo. He's doing well.
He is.
He's indeed doing well. So thank you. This is how far we can have it. Next week, Thursday, on the issues, will be another good time on radio to talk about your health. Remember to stay healthy. And of course, remember to care for somebody today. You never can tell what tomorrow looks like. Yes. My name is Opeyemi Adebambo. Tomorrow, the issues continue. Same time, same station. God bless you.